Welcome back to another episode of the Walking Towards Light podcast. I am your one and only host, Walker Williams, and this is a place where you can learn, you can grow your consciousness, and you can be your best self. Now, look, I'm happy to be back. I know I missed last week. I was down with a bad cold, y'all. The cold took me out. I was out for like 4 days in the bed, I was in the bed just messed up, sneezing, nose running, didn't want to go nowhere. And I'm the type of person, y'all, I'm not gonna lie to you. When I'm sick, I'm a baby. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm a baby. I don't want to move. My mood completely changed. I can't lie. That's why I have to be in the house and I gotta be away from things because I don't like when my energy shifts and it changes. I don't like that. So for the safety of others, I stay in. But now I'm 100% healed and everything is great. I'm feeling better. My spirits is back up. My energy is very high again. And that type of cold will make you just be grateful for life. You ever have a bad cold and you just once you not sick no more, you just start acting different because it's like you was in the dumps, like you was down there, and you were like, okay, I took being healthy for granted, so now I'm just being in the moment and appreciating me not having a congested, nose. I can breathe through my nose better, so that's wonderful. But now I get to have a wonderful, highly anticipated podcast that I put a poll out on my Instagram story. If you seen my Instagram story, I had 70 votes saying that they want to hear my shroom experience. So guess what? It's time to talk about it. Now, this right here, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna say this first. I am not encouraging anybody to try shrooms, to do shrooms. This is a strictly educational video, and this is strictly my experience doing shrooms. I'm not telling anybody to do shrooms. This is my experience, and this is education for the viewers. Had to get that out the way. Quick disclaimer, all right? Now, if you was to think of why would I want to take shrooms, what's the point? Why do you feel like you have shrooms? Why do you feel like you need shrooms? Or why do you feel like you need to take these things to hallucinate or whatever or something like that? I'm going to speak for myself. I'm a man who's very curious about a lot of things in life, and I've always did a lot of research on shrooms and psilocybin and DMT, and I always loved watching people experiences. And it was very intriguing what people would get out of these experiences that they will have, and the healing messages that they will receive from the trip, and all of these newfound transformative perspectives that they gain from having a good trip or even a bad trip. Like I always been just amazed and fascinated of what people would get out of these experiences, and I would binge watch experiences all day. So this is years and years of extensive research on psilocybin and what you can get out of the experiences. This wasn't my first time actually taking shrooms as well. I did shrooms probably like 2 years ago, but it was 1 gram. That's almost basically a microdose kind of. So I didn't experience the hallucinations or the patterns, the fractal patterns if you close your eyes or anything, or elves or all of these things in the psychedelic world. I didn't experience none of that. I went to the park, and I had that was the first time that I felt like off the 1 gram that I felt like my mind was completely clear and removed. And that's why I understand the benefits of microdosing, because and why people microdose almost every day, because I was at the park and it was just so relaxing. It was so peaceful to be at a state to where my mind is not going 100 miles per hour, and I'm just sitting there and I'm watching the ducks in the pond just go by so just majestically, and the colors was getting vivid and stuff like that, but it wasn't that's all it was. I actually just got to sit in the present moment with a clear mind and really feel what it feels like to be just mindful, to sit in mindfulness, removed from all of these daily distractive thoughts. So that was that first experience. But I always told myself that if I was to do shrooms again, I have to do the real deal. I promised myself that to if I was to come across shrooms again, it would have to be 3 grams and up. And you might want to know why such a strong dose, and going from 1 gram to three. I did 3.5 this experience. And I just think for myself, I've done a lot of inner work over the years. I've done a lot of inner work over the years with meditation, doing 1 hour meditations for 2 weeks in a row, doing 30-minute meditation, guided meditation throughout the years, just doing constantly doing the work when it comes to meditation and going inward within myself to find a piece of calmness when I need it, to be able to ground myself when I need it. I feel like I will be able to withstand a 3.5 shroom trip, and also with just like being knowledgeable on the substance, being knowledgeable on what you're about to endure is a very important part. And I think that was another thing. I've watched so many people experiences. I didn't come in with expectations of what the experience would be for me, because I know that every shroom trip is different. Every shroom trip is gonna be completely opposite than what somebody else is. I could have did 3.5 with somebody at the same time in my crib, and we would have had two different experiences. So, so, but it just still gave me a lot of information to, if things were to go this way, I know that I will be okay. I already came in knowing that within the trip that if I start, if things start to change, or I start to see things, start being not like reality, I knew that I already had that sense of mind that I know that I would just be tripping. So I think that was a thing that during my trip gave me a lot of comfort and a lot of, understanding. So I won't freak out and spiral into a bad trip. So I think this was the time for me to where it was the perfect time for me to go from 1 gram to 3.5 grams, because I just felt like another reason is just for myself. I just felt pulled to experience that. I felt pulled to wanting to know what these shrooms would teach me. What is something that I need to know for myself? What is something that I need to experience for myself? And that was another thing that made me yearn for it. Now, shrooms and psilocybin, if for those who don't know, is a chemical that that makes you hallucinate, that makes you have these transformative experiences. And it's so crazy that shrooms are literally from the earth, but shrooms being fungus, by the way, too, is another thing. But it's just that it's so beautiful when you think of shrooms and how shrooms can give you this magical experience, and it's from the earth. Ain't that crazy? Like a fungus. And I think that is crazy that something from the earth can make you have a life-changing, perspective-changing experience to where you will never be the same again after you take it. There's a documentary on Netflix that I would suggest you to watch for those who are beginners, or those who are not familiar with shrooms and mushrooms and the origins. There's a documentary called Fantastic Fungi. I will recommend that for any listener or viewer who is curious and want to know more and to be more educated on shrooms. It's a beautiful documentary of how fungus and the whole just network of fungus and how it works and the beauty of it. And I think it's very just beautiful and magical of how things like that can exist that come from the earth that can give us these things to make us realize more about ourselves and actually grow in open parts of our conscious that wasn't open. And I think that's crazy. And a lot of people also, this is just theory wise, a lot of people believe that shrooms was a part of the progression of our consciousness as a human society, as a human consciousness as well. A lot of people theorize that mushrooms helped the growth of consciousness throughout the evolution of human. So that's just a little side note theory. That's a little fun theory that a lot of people actually believe. And you do shrooms and these perspectives that you come out with, it's like you can't even be mad at that theory or disagree with that theory. But to get to my experience personally, I wanting to have I didn't want to treat this. A lot of times with people with psychedelics, they confuse it with like a party drug, or they confuse it with something they can take and go out and go to a party and dance, and which people tend to do. But I don't see that. I look at shrooms. I look at things like ayahuasca. I look at stuff like that as plant medicines that is actually is very healing for you. And a lot of people who take these things medicine wise, they heal from addictions. They heal from things that they've been struggling with internally, things that anxiety, depression, some of anything that you want to get rid of, and a lot of things that you just want to go away. These plant medicines is the thing. Like I know a lot of veterans have gone to these healing ceremonies with these plant medicines, and that goes to show that these things are actually healing. And actually psilocybin and mushrooms and stuff like that is legal. It's starting to be legal in a lot of states. It's actually starting to be legal. I think psilocybin is legal in Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. I think it is. But for medicinal use, which is what I'm trying to say. These things are being studied, and these things are actually being shown that these can actually heal people. If you have a bad look on shrooms, it's something that is used, that can be used for medicinal reasons. It can definitely help and heal a lot of things that you going through inwardly. People who struggle with addiction, people who struggle with anxiety, depression. A lot of times when people use these plant medicines, they heal them tremendously, and they have a life-changing perspective at the same time. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty of my experience. I want to say that before I started my whole trip, I wanted to make sure I wrote my intentions down. That's the most important thing, that before you do these shrooms, you have to make sure you set an intention, for you can kind of, put the energy out of what you want to experience. How do you want the experience to possibly, go? Possibly. It can still go another way, but we're going to be an open book, and I'm going to share my intentions that I had for my shroom trip. I had said is to bring more clarity for myself and my journey. I wanted to heal in aspects in aspects and areas I didn't know. To feel love, universal love, and just embrace the connection with everything. And the crazy thing is, my experience was kind of a reflection of my intentions that I wrote down. I also went in with a clear mind. It's important to go into these experiences with a clear mind. You can't come into these experiences if you're feeling down, if you're feeling low, or you feeling like depressed or if you're anxious, it's not the time. And it's not the you have to make sure your energy and your mindset is very clear and it's very, at a happy state. You don't want to go in a sad state. You don't want to go if something major just happened in your life that's kind of negative. You don't want to do shrooms after this, okay? You need to give it some time so you can get your mindset together and get back grounded, because shrooms is going to intensify anything. You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to intensify. Hold up, my bad. Where my water at? I don't got no water. But it's going to intensify your experience. Um, but so I wrote my intentions down, and I had a good state of mind, and I was ready. Let's talk about the taste. Nasty. I'm gonna tell you right now. 1 out of 10 would not recommend. It was like this spongy type of um texture. It wasn't fun. I had to take it back with some water. And also, side note, I forgot to mention, I did the Melmac shrooms, the Melmac type, not the I didn't do the what's the golden teachers. I didn't do the golden teachers, but I did the Melmacs. And I think the Melmacs is a little level above the golden teachers in the sense of intensity. And what's the word I want to say? I would say power. Yeah, it's higher in the sense of power of the hit power. So yeah, I wanted to make sure I noted that. But so after I ate these shrooms, right, I had my music set up, and music is another thing that's important to make sure you have together, and you make sure you got the good vibes. Make sure you set some good vibes and set the environment and the energy right in your room, because that's an important part too. I wanted to make sure for myself that my environment felt safe. It felt comforting. It felt, peaceful and loving, because I didn't know if I needed I didn't have a trip sitter. I didn't have somebody that'd be here if it went left. I just wanted to make sure the music was setting the tone for me, in the sense of like, sending that good energy. Like if I was like down and out, I knew I can hear some music that just felt like a hug, if I needed it. So I ended up finding a guy that made a whole like ceremonial like type of playlist for shrooms. He made a ceremonial playlist for shrooms, and that was a great idea, and I'm happy I thought about doing it, because that definitely was a part of the guide of my trip, because it was beautiful sounds. And I didn't want lyrics either. I realized I didn't want lyrics for my podcast. I knew I didn't want that for myself. So I just, because I didn't want to, if anything failed, I didn't want songs coming on that just lyrically didn't feel right with my soul. So I didn't want that. I just wanted songs with no people singing on there. And I think I did have songs with people singing, but it was just like hums, and it was like, it was people just, not saying words, which was important. So I ate the shrooms. Now I'm at a point of like feeling very jittery, and I'm just like not I wasn't I'm in a sense of jittery and anxious, but excited at the same time, because this is something that I wanted for myself. This is an experience that, hearing so many people experiences and their beautiful experience, I'm like, man, like that. Like I'm like, oh, like it's time. Like I actually did it. And it was kind of like that thing of like anticipation. But I also, for myself, I did a 30-minute meditation beforehand. Um, just for myself, I just wanted to make sure I did something that helped me stay grounded and center my mind and my body to prepare me for going into this trip. So I did the 30-minute meditation. That was good. It got me calm. It got me, ready and mindful. So I would say probably around the 45-minute mark, that's when it started to hit for real. Because there's a certain feeling in my body that I know something is about to come on. And I know for me, I don't know, my body just started feeling warm. I started feeling it all in this area right here. I'm like, yeah, I know something coming. But the startup for me was interesting because I used to hear people experiences. This is why you shouldn't go with expectations of like the rooms. The rooms start breaking down, and that wasn't my experience. I think I was just when I try to think about how it started for me, I think I just felt, oh, I know. Like I know exactly. My start of my thing was like I started feeling my TV. It felt like my TV was hella focused. I started seeing like the colors of my TV start coming out. Like it started being very vivid, and I started the music and the music that was playing was very very. When you get to that level, when anything of like marijuana or shrooms hit your system musically, the frequency just changed. You start feeling it more. I think that was my experience starting off. That's why I'm like, okay, like it's happening. So me, being the guy that I am, I'm getting excited. Like I had I had a thing that's called a mind fold. So where you put it and it blacks out everything. So I'm getting excited. I put my mindfold on just to see, like, I wanted to lay back and I wanted to see if I seen visuals. I wanted to see if I saw fractal patterns. I wanted to see if I seen anything that was coming to me in my mind. And I started seeing it. I started seeing these fractal patterns start forming. And it was like going like this and going. I'm like, oh, like me being such a geek on this shit. Like, I'm like, it's happening. Like, I'm starting to see the patterns. And so I'm sitting there just observing it for a minute, just, in there, just seeing the fractal patterns. So I take it off. I was doing that for probably 10 minutes. I take it off. And now I'm just in the experience. Like I'm starting to feel it. So it's like, I don't know. I just started moving on the couch. Like I'm just like, it was like moving my body. I think it was coming on so strong. Like I couldn't sit still. I'm laying down. I'm getting up. Like I'm getting like, I think it's just, the come up for me was just I felt it was very in my body. Like I just was feeling like the need to move. I remember I had to pee. I had to pee early on before it got to the peak. I had to pee, and because I remember I started feeling like I was trying to hold it in because I knew it was coming on. I'm on the couch like, I'm on the couch just like moving, like I'm on the couch just moving, but I knew I had to pee. I'm like, I gotta pee. And you go in my bathroom, there's a big ass mirror as soon as you walk into my bathroom. But see, this is not my peak, so it's like I'm not there all the way. So it's like the mirror effect at that time didn't really hit like that because I was still early on. It wasn't peak. And so I went use the restroom real quick. And I remember I was like cracking jokes and laughing, like, cause I'm starting to just like laugh and I'm starting to be silly and I'm starting to feel that euphoric feeling hit. But when I get back on the couch, like I remember myself, and it's so crazy. I remember myself doing like, um, I don't think I was physically making myself do this. I remember myself literally being on the couch, like my head, because this is the point where it was coming on strong. So it's like I'm doing a lot of things that I feel like I wouldn't do normally. I'm on the couch. I remember I was just like, I remember doing that. I don't know why I was doing that, but I was doing it. I promise. I feel like I don't know what the hell was going on with that. It was happening. And then I remember, now this is when the trip start. I start getting into peak mode because after that, and I was doing that, I remember the first conversation I started with having with myself was basically about it was like a conversation with myself saying that you are doing a good job. You are doing what you need to be doing. you are here to be a light for people. And I remember this was the first time, because shrooms increase your emotional sensitivity. The conversation you have with yourself is so beautiful within this trip. It's like your I think what I took from this is like your higher self and yourself here in your body is like a pure connection between your higher self and you in your body, your soul in your body. And it's like that veil between, because a lot of times people have ego deaths. And I think the ego dissolves in this scenario when you own these shrooms. It dissolves, and there's the veil of that, because the ego is blocking your connection to your higher self, really, honestly. But it's like once that veil is closed, it's like there's a pure communication between your higher self and you, because these conversations that started to happen during my peak was more of a conversation from my higher self to my soul. And this is the craziest thing, because it was like this was the first time I started crying in my trip, when I was saying that you were doing so good, like the love that you are giving out to the world. People need that. You're doing such a great thing, Walker. Like, you are doing a great thing. You are living in your purpose. And I was crying. This is when I first started boohoo crying because of that affirmation that I was getting during this. But this was just the first one. So I went from doing that, right? Now, at this point, we probably like an hour and 30. I really wish I can explain what went on from, I took the shrooms at like 10:30. I really wish it's hard for me to explain what went on from the point from 10:30 when I took it. I can explain from 10:30 to like 11:30, but from 11:30 to 1, I really can't. It's hard to explain everything that I experienced at that time, but I'm gonna try my best. A lot of things that I remember during that time, what I was doing in that 2 hour before 1, and 1 I was still tripping, but I remember a lot from 1 to the end of my trip. But during the 11:30 to 1 period, a lot of my memories are, one, I remember actually I went back to the bathroom. Look, I know people have their thing about not looking in the mirror and how you're not supposed to look in the mirror on shrooms. But look, man, I'm a curious person. And then I was still aware that I had to use the restroom. I've tried my best not to drink that much water before the trip or during the trip. But I'm a person that drink a lot of water. I wasn't trying to, but I still had to go. And even during my peak, I still knew I had to go. But during this time, I remember, like I said, a lot of my conversations I would have with myself was more from like a third party. And I'm saying this as my higher self came in. So everything that I was talking to myself was more of like somebody was talking to me. It wasn't me just yapping to myself. It was something talking to me. It was like every time I would say something, I would say my name, Walker, right? I would say my name after. Like, I feel like one of the big lessons that came from that 11:30 to 1 o'clock time. I was talking to myself, and no. Yeah, but yeah, I remember dancing. No, oh shit, we gotta talk about the mirror. Oh, but no, the mirror. I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and I was just like, whoa, like, what is this? And I'm looking at myself like in a thing like I never seen myself before. But like I said, I was looking at myself. I feel like everything I was doing was from my another perspective. And everything that I would do humanly would be so funny to me. Everything, even if I used the restroom, I found that hilarious. I would walk past my hamper and I would just like laugh at like human clothes. Like, what is this? Like, this is funny. I'm like, and it's a little dirty. I'm like, ugh, need to wash these clothes. But a lot of these things I was looking at, it would just look so different. And also another thing I noticed during this time period was I would look at my hands. I felt like my hands was the freakiest thing during my trip because I would look at my hands and they would literally look like they're aging every time I looked at them. And I would look at them and I'm like, whoa. Like I seen every single like wrinkle and line in my hand. Like my wrinkles was so HD in my hands. And my hands not even wrinkled for real. But during that trip, it was like I was looking at myself aging. And I was getting a lot of downloads while looking at my hands because I was having conversations with myself like, nothing is permanent. I kept saying this to myself. But like I said, from a third party, I was saying like nothing. I was like, nothing is permanent, Walker. Nothing is permanent. And I kept saying that while I'm looking at my hands, like nothing is permanent. Like time is fleeting. We're all going to pass. Everyone is going to pass. All of our times are coming. What are you going to do with your time? Are you being grateful to be in this existence? Because you got a time to where it's time for you to go. You have to appreciate the things that you, the areas that you had in life, the people that you have in life, the things that you're doing, because you're not going to be here forever. And I wrote that down. I wrote that down on my notebook, like right across the thing. Nothing is permanent, Walker. Don't hold on, Walker. Like I said, a lot of my communication with me was like my higher self talking to me. And so I had this whole thing about this is during that 11:30 to 1 time. I was having a lot of dialogue to myself, but also there was times where I was on the ground. I remember being on the ground and I would close my eyes and I would see, this was another crazy part. I would literally see fractal patterns, but I would see smiles in the fractal patterns. And it was a point I remember saying to myself, I'm like, why is all these motherfuckers smiling at me? And I found that so funny. I'm like, why is all these motherfuckers smiling at me? I'm seeing nothing but smiles. Like, what the hell is going on? I'm seeing smiles and all of these fractal patterns in my mind when I close my eyes for a second. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, this is, like I said, at this point, I'm all over the place. I'm in my home. I'm just all over my place. I'm going from the bathroom to look at myself, to question who I am, looking at my face and my skin, from going from nothing is permanent, going in my living room. I had music still playing. I'm dancing, y'all. I'm like, no lie. I'm dancing like I was in a movie. I'm like, and I was just so happy. It was like euphoria. Like I'm dancing. It was like I'm dancing in like a cosmic play or something like that. It was just like I was just dancing in bliss. And I would be dancing. I would be looking around my apartment. I'd be looking at Buddha right here. And I'm like, whoa, like Buddha is, I have a statue, a little small statue of him right here that you can't see, but there's a lot of detail on him, and I could see every detail in this statue. And I was like, whoa. I was looking at my books. My books was just so detailed and the words was coming out at me. And I'm like, whoa. Like everything for me was just like, I felt like I was another being experience, a human experience. Like that's what it felt like. Everything in my house felt so cool. My plants was so green and they was moving, they was breathing, and I was hugging my plants. No lie. I was hugging my plants and I was telling them I love them. I was filled, at this time, I was just filled with so much love and bliss and euphoria. It was just crazy. it was crazy. And now this, and I feel like the most important part of this trip for me was the dialogue that I was having with myself. I forgot. I think. Oh, and I want to say, and I want to say too also that another main thing that I would say to myself during this trip is that everything is beautiful. Everything is beautiful. I wrote that down in my book, in my notebook, and I said everything is so beautiful because I kept saying that because when I would think about everything in this time, I would think about all the things that we go through in life. I would think about these things, and I would think about all these things that we go through in life, of the ups, the downs, the gains, the losses, the experiences, the everything that we experience, the love, the triumph moments that we have, the moments that we feel like we've experienced fear or whatever, or anything that we had to learn, is all beautiful. And I kept saying this, I'm like, everything is beautiful. Everything that we go through in life is beautiful. Everything that we do and everything is happening for our greater good. And I kept saying this to myself, that everything is beautiful. Everything in life is beautiful. Everything that we go through, everything that we do, everybody that we meet, everybody that our enemies, all of these things that form, that are meant to propel us and propel our spirit and our conscience and our soul, is beautiful because it's all a part of the evolution. It's all a part of the growth. All of these things blend together as a part of evolution, and it's all beautiful. And I kept saying that. But that dialogue led to, I felt like, the bigger message for myself. And mind you, like I said, these dialogues and these things that was coming out, these downloads that was coming out during my trip, I didn't speak on these things before, really. I didn't write these down. I didn't really I really didn't express this so much vocally with myself beforehand, because that's how I know it was something. I know it was the shrooms, because these wasn't conversations I was having with myself before. My trip was very, very personal. It wasn't like I was, laying down the whole time and I had got zipped to a whole nother universe or dimension. No, like mine was like really personal. Like I cried so much because I really started crying the most when it got closer to the 1 o'clock period. That's when I was at I don't think I ever cried this much in my life. Dead serious, because this conversation that I started having with myself on the couch brought me to so much tears, because it's so simple, but it's like it was exactly what I needed for my soul. Because my thing in life, I am a lover boy, and I say this, and that's not even just in aspects of romantic relationships, but that's in aspects of everything in life. Like, I just love love. I'm a person that love. I'm a person that love with all my heart, and I love everybody I come across, and I always been that way as a kid. Just trying to give my love out to the highest extent that I can in my whole life. That's just me. And I think in my life, sometimes I've struggled, wanting to feel that same love that I have reciprocated to me. Whether that's in any situation or relationships. In relationships, I wanted to feel that grand love. I wanted to feel full of love, which I have before in current relationships. Don't get me wrong, but there's always a search for more. This is before the trip. I just feel like inwardly, there's always a search for wanting that, to feel love and to experience love. And this is not something that I asked for. I did in my intentions. I did say I wanted to feel love, but not in that way of like when it came to, I felt like that download for that I needed for relationships, or just in general when it comes to love. there was a thing to where it was just like, I just started having dialogue of like, why do you feel like you need to search for love? You don't have to search for something that you are, Walker. Right? This is a conversation I started having with myself when my higher self was talking to me. And I started thinking about it. And I think in shrooms, you have these deep thoughts that you have answers for. It's not something that where you just thinking and you don't have an answer for it. Like, no, you have these deep thoughts and you getting these answers and you getting these downloads from these deep thoughts that you're having. And it was like, what are you looking for? You don't have to look for something that you are. Your essence, your true essence as a being, as a soul, is already love. You don't have to search for something that you are, Walker. Right? You don't have to search for it. Just be it. And I circled this. I might have to just put this on, like take a picture of it and put it on the screen. But I circled this and said, just be it. Because I started talking to myself and I started saying, you don't have to look for love, just be it. Because you are already loved. There's no need to search, to find, to discover, if you know that the true essence of yourself is everything that you need. If you know that you are loved, you don't need to look anywhere else. Because you know that at your truest state, beyond all of this material shit, you are love. And that download made me cry like a motherfucking newborn baby. I was on the couch just deep crying. Just deep crying because I just didn't know I needed that message. And that message was so simple, but it was so needed for my soul, because it's like, you don't have to search, Walker. What are you searching for? Everything that you need, you already have it. You are already whole. You are already complete. You don't need something that's going to come in and complete you. You don't need something that's going to come in and make you whole. Your cup is already full. And I was like, damn. I'm like, damn. That shit was so, like, transformative for me. I just had to I have a video. I was thinking about sharing it. I might blank out the video and just and put the audio on here because I was crying. But I was thinking about being very, open and let you hear the dialogue. There was a part where I recorded, and I'm happy I thought about doing this at the time. But it's like, now I can look at this anytime I feel like I don't have love around me. I have everything I need right now. I am love. Everything around me is love. And that's why I was like, that's what it kept affirming to me. Like, everything is around you is love. What you looking for? You have love all around you. You don't need nowhere to look if you know that it's love all around you. Walker. Which is so funny. Also, when I say Walker, it was times where I'll say my name and I'll just laugh. That goes back to when I said like anything humanly was just funny to me. It was hilarious because it's like, bro, like Walker, like, this is the name that you are holding on to, and that it's another label that you feel like is you, and that is all these egotistical things of saying that I am Walker, I am this, I am this, right? That's why it's just so funny. Why I kept saying when I say Walker, I'd be laughing sometimes at the idea of me having a name as well. But also going in that same direction of talking about the love, I wrote down, this is one of my favorite things. I also happy that I was able to jot things down during my experience. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. As you can see, I did not give a fuck about writing on the lines. I was just writing on pages. This is how you know, like, when thoughts was coming to me, I was just writing them down. If I just think about something, I just write it down. It came to me, write it down. It was just like, I just feel like the experience was just so spiritual. Everything was just so something that I wouldn't do. I journal, but I don't journal like this to where I just write on pages without writing on the lines. And on this page I wrote, it's one of the favorite things that I wrote from this trip. And I wrote, I love you. Love is free. Love is me. I am love. I am. And that's another thing that made me cry too, because I think I was crying when I actually wrote this too. I think I was crying when I write this because I felt a huge amount of love just pervading in my system, just taking over me. Like it was a real universal love that I felt in my body. It just felt like a universal love hug. That's what it felt like. That's why I was crying so hard. It's just like to feel actual love within your body, within your soul and your spirit is just, I'm pretty sure anybody would cry. Because if you want to be real, like beyond the ego, beyond these layers and shells that we put on ourselves, to these character traits that we put on and show to the world, like everybody wants love. Like everybody. I don't give a fuck if you the hardest. You might think you one of the hardest dudes in the world. Deep down inside, either that person want love, lacking for love, need love, or you know what I'm saying? It's one of the two. Like everybody's either or of those things. So it's like everybody wants love in some form or fashion. And I feel like to feel that universal love is the most beautiful thing I had got to experience. And that's why I was crying. And I don't give a damn that I'm saying I was crying. I was crying hard as shit. And them cries was healing me. Those cries was making me feel just like, I don't know, like it was something I never felt before. And that's why when I was writing this and I was crying, I wrote this down. And that is so powerful. I want to say it again. I said, I love you. Love is free. Love is me. I am love. I am. Mind you, I never wrote that down before that trip. I never wrote this whole sequence down before that trip. This is something that just came out during that trip. That's why I told you. This shit was spiritual. I'm telling you, this was a real spiritual experience that I needed for myself. And I'm so grateful that I got to experience that, because this quote right here is, I would never forget about this. I would never lose this notebook where I wrote this down, because the whole essence of love is in that quote. Me telling myself I love myself, saying love is free, that you don't have to look for nowhere for love. Love don't have to be a transactional thing. Like love is everywhere around you. Love is you. Love is free. Then I said love is me. Then I said I am love. Right? Then I said I am. Because there was a certain type of awareness that I was writing down in this quote of just basically saying that I am is so powerful, because it's basically saying I went from I am love to I am. Basically, that I am is the thing of like realization that I am everything. I am is so powerful. Like even I bring up a Bible scripture reference when God in the Bible has said that he said, I am that I am. And it's so simple, but that's one of the most powerful statements. And I wanted to bring the Bible thing for people. If I got some religious people that are watching this for you. God in the Bible, I think it's in Exodus. I can't remember what chapter it was, you know. But it's definitely in Exodus if you want to find. Just know you can type in wherever you want to find it. He said, I am that I am. And that I am statement is basically saying that I am all things. I am everything. I am creation. I am the end, beginning, start, end, middle, everything around you. I am. There's no And I think that's why it's so powerful, because when you just say I am, everything that you put behind it, and that's why that's so good for affirmations for yourself, of the things that you put behind I am for yourself. If you want to say I am attracting love into my life. I am attracting abundance in my life. I am I am beautiful. I am living in my highest self. I am everything that you put behind I am is a great affirmation to use to attract things in your life, because like I said, I am is the basically the cream of the crop. It's everything. And that's why it's like that quote basically going all the way is breaking love down, and basically just going down and just saying I am everything. Like I even wrote right beside it, said you are everything. You are everything, Walker. You are God. God is you. And God is love. And love is you. And I was just like, man. That's why I feel like the main message of this truth was just love. It was just love. It was love. It was nothing but love. It was nothing but just being able to feel that. And I told you I wrote that in my intentions, which was so interesting, that was kind of the way that it played out. And so now that was one moment that I had. This was around 1:30, I think, 1:30 something. But after that, my dad called me mid-trip. And this is when I was crying. This is after I was just boo-hoo crying. My dad called me, and I couldn't pick up because I knew I was in the middle of tripping balls. So I didn't want to pick up and actually, say, I don't know. I could have said anything. But seeing my dad call me sent me down a whole spiral of our life memories that I had with my dad. And I tell y'all, guess what? Guess what came after that? Crying. Cried again. Cried, boohoo, cried again, because I actually, these memories that I was living, it felt like I was actually in these memories. I went back to the time when I was 5, and me and my dad was in the upstairs. We was upstairs in my parents' house, and me and my dad was dance battling upstairs in the hallway, and my mom was up there, and we was just laughing. Me and my dad was doing this dance battling, we was dancing, and I was living these memories. It wasn't something where I was just thinking about it. I was living these memories, and actually being there felt like it was actually happening. And I was just crying of just how much I love my dad. And then that love for my dad went for my mom. And I was living through my mom experiences. I could just go through all of my memories that I had with my family members, my sisters, to times where me and my sister would just be upstairs, just dancing, having fun, listening to old school music. And all of these things was just bringing me so much joy and love of how much that I had from my family and I had from my friends. And I was able to experience these moments and really experience all the things that I had so much love for and the people that I have so much love for. And it showed me all of these clear, vivid memories that were just reminders of how much love I have around me. And I was just I was just boo-hoo crying. From after one, it was nothing but tears majority of the time. It was majority of the time, especially after the whole memory. It was crying. Oh man, it was. Let me see. Did I write anything else down? Now, towards the, I was still tripping, because my reminder of me tripping, I remember I look at my hands and my hands would still look like they was aging. I look at my hands, I'm like, yep, I'm still tripping because my hands still look old as shit. My hands look like they're dying. But after the whole memory thing, that's when I start having a lot of dialogue with myself about time. Cause I would get up and I would look at the time and I'm like, wow, like it's 2 o'clock. Like, how is 2 o'clock? But I literally just relived all of my life memories and it felt like I was doing that for forever. Right? My sense of time wasn't adding up to the time on my clock. And this is when I started having a dialogue with myself when I wrote. I came and I wrote on my notebook and I said, what is time? There's no such thing as time, Walker. Because I was experiencing two different times at once. When I have these visions of my past, it will feel like I will be there forever. And then I would get up and I would look at the clock and I know that I took my shrooms at 10:30, but it's 2 o'clock. But it feel like it went from 10 straight to 2. So I'm experiencing that time is taking a long time to time is moving fast as fuck, because I would look outside and where my apartment is at, it's kind of like in the main area to where cars be driving into the complex. I would see cars drive by and I promise y'all the cars would look like they driving like this. He'd be like zip, zip, zip. And I'm like, damn, car driving fast as shit. So, like I said, I was having two different perceptions of time, and shrooms also is another thing that slows down time, your perspective of time. It slows it down. So that's when I start having a dialogue of just that time is really relative, of like how Einstein speak of. It's really based off just the experience of where you at, what you're doing. All of this is like, it's really not a real thing. It's just based off what your experiences that makes time real, sort of say, in the human, in the time space experience, in the human experience. That was another thing that I had a lot of thought of and downloads during that time. But also, kind of towards the end, there was a moment. This was after I was envisioning too, but there was a time I was just laid out on the ground on my rug. No lie, I was laid out on the ground, and I was laid on my belly on the floor, and I was kind of laid on the ground like this. And there was a moment. I wasn't coming down yet. I was still tripping at this time, where I was just laid on the ground, and this was my moment to where I closed my eyes. I didn't visualize. The sun was beaming on me through my door. I have good lighting in my house, so the sun was beaming on me, directly on me on the ground. And I think there was a moment I closed my eyes. I didn't see anything, but I was just like I was like, I just felt like I melted into pure consciousness. I was on the ground, and I remember the last thing I looked at before I closed my eyes was something that wrote on my notebook like an hour and a half before, of "Don't hold on, Walker." I was looking at it. That was the only thing that I could see, and I closed my eyes, and I was just there, laying with my eyes closed. I started seeing yellow, and I know that's because the sun was hitting me, but I was just no thoughts, no thinking, just there. And I think that was about 30 minutes, but I promise that felt like a lifetime too. I was literally in just pure awareness. Only thing that I could feel was my heartbeat. I couldn't feel my body no more. I was just experiencing. And I was just being, right? And, and one of my homies texted me during my trip, and he was like, "Bro, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Just being." And I put hella laughing emojis. I'm like, "Bro, I'm just being." Like, I was just excited. Like, I'm just being. Like, being is enough, right? And I wrote that. At the top of this. And I said, just being is enough. And that's so simple. But that was one of my favorite things I wrote down during this trip too, is just that, just being. But yeah. Yeah, I was completely submersed into a state of awareness for about a good 30 minutes. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I got out of that and I was like, wow, like that was so peaceful. That was so calming. It was so beautiful. Like I said, like I could only hear my heartbeat. I couldn't feel my body no more. Like all that I do is just hear my heartbeat. Do 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 do. And I was just like, man. And after I got out of that, I was still having dialogue, and I was like, I remember I was hearing myself saying, "Everything is everything." Like if everything is everything, that means everything is everything. I am everything. Everything around me is everything. I am connected to everything, right? But this is when I started coming down. I started coming down, and I just started being real reflective on my trip, and I was like, damn. I was so shook about everything that I experienced, and how beautiful it was, and how much I needed that. And I remember calling my boy Indigo, and we was just on the phone, and I was just talking to him, and I was just like, man, it's just like just kind of talking to him about my experience, and just kind of, processing what I just experienced. And look, 10 out of 10 experience for me. 10 out of 10 experience for me. It wasn't nothing crazy of like just, I would say, super dramatic. But everything that I felt like I experienced was helping me bring clarity. I put that in my intentions. I put that in my intentions of that's what I wanted. And I feel like it was showing me all of these aspects of myself and how to love myself more and how to be love and don't have to search for love. Don't have to look nowhere for love when you know that you are love. And I needed that for me. And I needed to see myself in these perspectives, like looking at myself in a mirror and looking at myself from a different perspective and in a human perspective, to just like laugh at myself of things that we take serious or we hold on, or things that we feel is you know all these labels and conditions that we put on ourselves. And if we remove all these things, we are already complete. We don't need these material things to make us feel whole and complete. No, we already that. Just being is enough. Just being able to exist is enough for your soul. You don't need all of these external things to make you be enough when you are already at your core enough when you was born. So, man, look, and this is not one of the things that I'll be doing just like every week, every month. Like, no, like this, shrooms is something that if it calls you, if it's something that comes, come in your possession, and it just you feel like it's time for you to experience something like that, then that alone, then hey, that's just the universe pulling it to you. But was mine. This is something that I feel like it's probably could be a yearly thing, or just whenever I feel, the need to do it. Probably the next time I probably will up the dose a little bit more, but that would be ain't no telling when that would be. I'm fine right now. That lesson of all that crying that I did, I probably cried that's probably the most crying I did in my whole existence. Nah, I'm not gonna say that, but I definitely haven't cried that hard in a long, 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 long time. I don't remember crying that hard ever. But it was a good cry. It was a healing cry. And I hope y'all could, get some info or some wisdom out of my experience and the things that I've learned and the perspectives that I received during this trip. And I hope y'all enjoyed this podcast. It's a very personal podcast. Uh, I want to know if some people are like, oh, he's a druggie. I'm not a druggie. Y'all look at me. I'm perfect. I'm perfectly fine. But yeah, this is my personal experience, and I want to share with y'all. I'm an open book, That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. Speak my truth. And I hope y'all enjoyed it. Let me know in your comments, how you feel about it. If you experience shrooms, what was your experience like? Did you have any downloads, or did you have any new perspectives that you learned in your trip? I want to hear it all. I want to hear all the trips. Even if you had a good trip, you had bad trips, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it in the comments. I love y'all, and I hope y'all have a beautiful week. And, see y'all next week. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Do not forget. And I cannot forget the end. I almost forgot the end, y'all. My bad. We are all walking on this journey back to the eternal light. Make sure you remain curious. Make sure you love yourself. Love your neighbors. Love yourself, most importantly. And do what you gotta do. And that's in forms of all things for your higher self. Do what you gotta do. And we out for real. Peace.